Hey guys, so I'm working on the head amplifier here, and I've got the shielding off. I did replace the capacitors. Some of the capacitors were leaking, and so I had to do a bridge because some of the traces were damaged. And so I had to do some bridging. But we're going to finish recapping this thing, and then we'll get this thing put back in, and this machine will work beautifully. It should have the best picture quality that it can have for its use and its age. You know, these things can play, and they can play tapes like they did back when they first came out if you go through some of these steps. And another thing I want to check out before we send it on its way is I will be looking at replacing the capacitors in the power supply too, I believe, before we send it all back together, so that you know. But yeah, there's I replaced about what, 5 caps, and so now I'm going to put the shielding plate back down, and we'll resolder that plate back on there like that, and then we'll do the other side, and we'll recap the other side there. So, well, with all the bridging I had to do to get this thing going, and it's just performing very good. This is the best picture possible. This is the very best it's going to get. The picture quality is not going to get any better than this, but we've got the preamp has been recapped, the head amplifier has been recapped, and the only thing left is to check out the power supply. And I do want to get rid of the Elna capacitor, but I may not have any. I'm not quite sure if I do. If I will have any. Trying to see what voltage that is, but I'm going to have to take the power supply out in order to take a look at that. So, and I do need to do some cleaning in the power supply, so what we can do is go ahead and just recap the power supply and get this one going again. This thing works beautifully, but I'm doing everything that the customer has asked, and that is going through all the caps that I could think of that may have a problem in the future. But what I will do here is we'll go ahead and eject it. And we got this thing working beautifully. So, you know, there's the cassette housing has been changed. The idler motor, I believe, has also been changed on this. We did the caps in the preamp. We did the caps and the head amplifier. We're gonna do some of the capacitors in the power supply. I just want to make sure that everything is good on this thing and that it will last for a long time. Making sure that there's no dry joints or any solder joints that have cracked. Sometimes these older machines, the solder can have like a hairline crack, or so sometimes that can happen. So sometimes it's good to reflow the solder connections on certain things, such as like a power supply, or any other board that might cause an issue. I'm not seeing any dry joints or anything like that. So I didn't see any cracked joints, but we'll just reflow the solder just to make sure, and that's what I did. So some of the areas we just kind of reflowed the solder because it looked like it could be a crack in it, and there we go. So let's power it off. We're gonna unplug it. I'm gonna pull the power supply out. I'm gonna check the capacitors in the power supply. We'll check them, and we do want to replace that Elna capacitor. If I have another cap that I could replace that Elna cap with, that's what we'll do. So we'll just go ahead and unplug the machine, and now we'll take a look at the power supply. So we've got the power supply apart. I took out the Elna capacitor. So what I do have is a used Sanyo cap. It's a 35 volt at 470 microfarad. So we're going to put that in and get rid of that Elna. Do not want Elna caps in this thing. So there's more than just one. There's a few Elnas in here, and we're going to get rid of Elna there, there, and there. There's 3 of them I could see. Looks like there might be 4. But we're gonna go ahead and just change out these capacitors and get some new ones in, and basically that will make sure that this machine is trouble free for a long time. So he'll probably get quite a few years of use out of this machine before retiring it. Now he might even sell it when he is all done digitizing their tapes. I have had customers that do that. They send me the machine to repair so they can transfer tapes, and once they do that, then they sell the machine. So I'm gonna keep changing them out. We've got this is the used one, but this is a Sanyo cap, and this one's in good shape, so we're gonna use it. But yeah, we're gonna swap that out. We'll swap out some of the other ones here. Here's all the caps that we've changed in the power supply. Now, most of them were Elnas, and some of them were Rubicon. Rubicons go out sometimes, but not like the Elnas. The Elnas always go out. So we'll go ahead and throw this back into the machine. I've got the tape here. It's all back together for the final time. It's not going back apart. This is now going to go back to the customer. This is the end of the repair. This is the final test. So let's go ahead and slide it in. She's performing beautifully. Yes, I do know that the door has been changed. That's because this door goes to this particular cassette housing, and it will not accept a different door because the teeth are different. So each cassette, some of the cassette housings had the door had the teeth in different positions. So I'm not able to put the Super Beta Hi-Fi door back on there. But that's okay, because this came out of an SL300. And but that's okay. He just wants a working machine, which is what he has here. I don't think he's going to care that much about the door saying Betamax instead of saying Super Beta Hi-Fi. Oh, he's got that to say Super Beta Hi-Fi. I don't think he'll mind about that. I think he'd be fine with that because it's working beautifully, and We go forward. We go reverse. Just a great machine. And eject. And we'll go back in, hit play. Yeah.
I hate to see you all alone waiting.
The picture is as good as it's gonna get. The picture's not gonna get any better. It is performing it the way it should. There were a lot of leaky capacitors that were, you know, causing a lot of the video noise. And the noise in the picture was caused by capacitors that were going bad. There were some caps that were starting to leak, and then there were a couple of them that already were leaking. So I'm surprised that this thing had an image at all. But, you know, with the caps being bad, some of them leaking, you know, can cause problems. It may not cause the machine to not work, but it'll cause the machine to have poor quality picture or poor quality sound, especially in the power supply, you know, because the power supply delivers voltage throughout the whole machine and does all the operations. But this thing is beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and rewind this thing back to the very beginning of it. And we can put in another cassette if we wanted, but don't need to. This is it. This is the final review or test. And we'll reset the counter.
I told him to get out. Now that he had what he came for.
It's in the beginning. So we're gonna rewind this. Okay. Beautiful. Now when it's forwarding there, it's going past the leader. It will forward through the leader. Because if it doesn't fast forward through the leader, if the tape end sensors were not working, it would not rewind, or I mean fast forward to the leader at the very beginning of the tape. And but the end sensors are working. But yeah, basically when this thing gets rewound all the way, basically it rewinds all the way past the leader, and then when you put it in and it's at the leader, it'll forward through just a little bit. So it'll forward through a few seconds. So the leader, if the leader is showing and you go to put it in, and it will actually forward just a little bit. See how it forwarded just a little bit? That's to ensure that the leader has been, and then there's the start of the recording. So and there's the CBS box. And here's the top. You've got RF settings. This is for the RF channel 3 or channel 4. I always put it on channel 4 myself as just my personal preference. I put it on normal. There's also one for cable. You could switch it to cable TV. Or if you put it on normal, you can go channel 4. Then we can do that. Channel 4 there. There we go. Then we'll put the line of this door back on. And this thing is ready to go. Reset the counter. Power it off. We're going to unplug it. This thing is ready to go back. So I hope you enjoy watching the video here. I know that we've done far more than the repair on this thing. We've done, you know, 2 major repairs, which was a broken cassette housing. So we replaced it. We had an idler motor that was not working at all. Replaced it. We even put new caps on the on the idler motor. We changed out the cap, so it still didn't do anything. So changing out the motor allowed this thing to once again have picture search in both forward and rewind, because before it didn't have picture search, and now it does, you know, so now it all works properly. But the 2 main things on this was the idler motor and the cassette housing. Got this thing back up and going. Then what we did was did an additional replacing of capacitors in the preamplifier and the head amp, and we replaced the capacitors in the power supply except for 2 of them. There was 2 or 3 of them that were fine. The great big capacitors, the bigger caps, the 22,000 microfarad caps, those were fine. There was no need to change those. They're not Elna's, so you know they were testing great. All the other ones have been replaced, so this power supply has been overhauled. The only thing that we didn't do is we didn't put in a new regulator, but we don't really need to have a new voltage regulator in this thing. You know, I could still talk to the customer and see if that's something that he might want to do, but the regulator in this thing is working, so you know, why put a new one in if we don't need to? I mean, typically I would say only put a regulator in if it has an issue, but can it have an issue later on down the road with the regulator? Yes, that could be. That could happen. You'll notice that I've used Novus 3, 2, and 1 on this, and actually I used number 3 because I don't have the number 2. But the number 3 is the heavy scratch removal, I believe. And the number 2 was the fine scratch. Yeah, this was the heavy scratch. So we actually used Novus number 3 on it. And then we used Novus 1, which is the cleaner, on there. So 3 and 1, which got the plastic see-through window looking good. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do to this machine now. The next thing, tomorrow, what we'll probably do is we'll go ahead and put new capacitors in the preamp circuitry on the R70. So that's what we're going to do. But this is it. This is the final repair of the HF600. This is it. This is the last one that we had to fix. So we're going to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.